Flat Earth Debate live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in the Flat Earth Debate Discord server, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. Now I've actually, after advice from Righteous Force, pre-titled the show, as we do know what we're covering, although I don't actually have a link to it and I have no idea what the contents of it is. But it's something to do with Joe Rogan. Neil, what was the video?
I think you're talking about the Terrence Howard one.
Terrence Howard. Can someone dig up a link to the Terrence Howard? Presumably it's Joe Rogan interviewing Terrence Howard. If someone can dig that out, we'll cover it. But in the meantime, we're going to ask at least a couple of housekeeping questions. So, any evidence of Earth curve? Physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve.
Jimmy Osmond had a bunch of it yesterday. It's just that it wasn't Earth curve.
No, he used horizontal planes of reference to infer Earth curve.
Not since 2020, 1st of January 2020, with the Black Swan. Yeah, they've relinquished the Earth curvature.
They relinquished atmospheric effects. I'm sorry.
He's just telling me the links there. Carry on. Thank you.
Oh, not only did they relinquish the Earth curve maths, but now they're relinquishing the atmospheric refraction they used to claim as a get around so they could use the Earth curve maths. So they're just burning that entire bridge down now, it seems.
Yeah.
Yeah, they've relinquished geometry in general because you can't do maths anymore. Everything is banded.
Did you have some timestamps, Neil? Did you, you said you would have a look through it and there was a particular point that hopefully you can tell us that I can start at?
Didn't get a chance to watch any of it, but you could start at the 20-minute mark. I can guarantee that.
What about the Witsit video? It didn't really get played yesterday where you were raping Timmy on camera.
Yeah, it did. We covered at least 25 minutes of it. By 25 minutes, I mean, we did 25 minutes on that particular subject matter. I listened back to it. Yes, it was a little bit short of what it could have been if it hasn't been for a fundamentalist zealot interrupting the discussion. But that is the primary purpose of the show. So, oh well. Tough luck with it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you do something else, we'll critique that and point out how useless it is to go to the sky vacuum and juxtapose your ether sensation with the over, 109-year out-of-date Newtonian versus Einsteinian gravitational effects. I mean, that's the real debate that they were having, as far as I could tell. There wasn't really any flat Earth evidence being put to him. And one of the commenters even said in that show about the debate with Witsit, remember that the E in FE is Earth. And I totally agree with the sentiment. Like, how long can we spend pointing out a lost opportunity when they appeal to a heliocentric notion that they don't actually have because they're using flat Earth measurements to get it? You can only say that so many times with Witsit, because he does the same thing every time, doesn't he?
That's his debating style.
the concepts are always with respect to the plane of reference. When they look up and talk, they're always talking about it with respect to Earth. It's entrenched in everything that they do with it.
Exactly. Beyond pointing out how they've got a horizontal plane of reference to make their sky inferences, that's the link. That's the only link relevant to Witsit, because it's all he ever does, isn't it? He's always looking for a segue to ether.
Nathan, what are you trying to drive home in 2024?
Earth is measured flat.
Okay, so you're going to stick with that. What is Witsit trying to drive home in 2024?
We have a incoherent dielectric accelerative force called ether.
Right, no need for gravity. This gravity works
there's
on flat
additions
Earth.
to that, yes. There's a juxtaposition and false dichotomy in addition to that, yes. Your point being, Neil?
You have an agenda. Your agenda is to bring forth how flat earthers can stay on top, and destroy ballers by this, and end it by Earth is measured flat. That's it. It's a done deal. His agenda is to promote ether and the dielectric acceleration, the incoherent, which is a great word for it, because that's his agenda. So whatever your agenda is, you're going to lead with that.
Yeah, and the reason that heliocentrists get away with the incoherent dielectric acceleration within their electric universe is because incoherent means that there is no, it's in all directions. Their gravity is all coming in. It is, what is that called when everything, it's divergent, but it's going the other way.
Reciprocal?
But anyway, it's divergent is going out from a point, and the opposite of that is everything coming to a point.
Radiating?
It doesn't matter. But anyway, that's how they get away with incoherent. But if you're a flat earther, your incoherent dielectric acceleration doesn't give you a single vector. So, yeah, I don't know why they're doing it. I guess they don't understand what the words they use mean.
They're putting finite tips on the feast of nonsense. It bugs me. But that answers your question, why aren't we covering it again? If somebody moans and says, I don't think you're moaning, but to be clear, if somebody does and says, no, you do need to cover more in this Witsit debate with Law Lodge, because at the 47-minute mark he covers this, I think it'd be useful, then I will. But as far as I'm concerned, we've dipped our toe in it, and what we dipped into was the same yogurt we've dipped our toes into many times before. It was goopy and it wasn't going to be eaten afterwards.
You see, when Witsit does come when Earth is measured flat, he does it fast, with no confidence, and like an afterthought. I don't get it.
Well, you do get it. You summarised it. It's lack of confidence.
How long are you going to sit there and argue with someone that says words that don't exist? Are you going to go get a dictionary and sit there and try to show them? Like, there's a point where you just need to laugh. And that's kind of where we're at with the heliocentrists. I don't know if we're quite there with the Ethereans yet, but it's getting close.
If you spend...
Yeah, but the problem is he represents us. You can't get around it.
That's the problem, yes. He should be labelled an Etherean. But as an Etherean, he's hijacked Flat Earth as his audience. And if he, and indeed now his audience, are only hearing about Etherean concepts, then that is what you're being trained in. So when it comes to arguing for the Flat Earth, that's what you argue with, because that's what you've been trained in. That's what Witsit was trained in. He's been trained how to argue for ether, not how to argue for Flat Earth. Again, I mentioned this yesterday. It was one of the things that I despised about watching Globebusters back in the day. I'd be in the chat moaning that they weren't talking about the subject. Now, nothing's changed. They still don't. Witsit's one of the offshoots of that particular crowd, and that's what they researched. So that's what they've been trained in. That's how they argue.
Well, Brian said that he was talking about that way before he joined up with Globebusters on Facebook. That's how Bob discovered him.
Either way.
Well, isn't him and QE, Witsy and QE used to be friends for a while, didn't they? You would think just listening to QE talk some, you would have picked up on the most basic concepts.
Well, he did, but it reached a crossroads where, like with others I've spoken to, where you have to confront them with their own misapprehensions about, in some instances, what they're qualified in and deem as science. Well, there was a crossroads for Witsit where quantum eraser's outstanding education in science was understood by Witsit. And did he then relinquish his pseudoscientific claims? Nah, he just changed his language slightly, cut the word experiment out of Michelson-Morley, and that was it. That's what he did. No.
But
Go on.
It never stopped him from asserting the cause of phenomenon in the physical world. He still does that.
That's what I was going to go on to say.
You know,
exactly. He's still asserting it as though it's as it is. It is still called the Michelson-Morley experiment. It is still pseudoscientific in its nature. It is still hijacking what they claim to be phenomena. Well, it's still just the same pseudoscience. It doesn't matter if you lob the word experiment off it. I mean, all that does is steal the magic that it used to have when it was called an experiment, when it wasn't then and isn't now. But lobbing the word experiment off it doesn't change the fact that it's pseudoscience.
Yeah, because you're asserting a cause for a phenomenon that you say, you know, they say that. They say, well, we need to be able to explain this phenomenon in nature. Well, what deals with explanations in the natural world? What is the adjudicator of that?
Science and the scientific method.
Yeah. Like, so what are you doing? You just doing a magic trick or something? What's your point?
Yeah. It's like having a game called the fraud game. And you go, right, if you do this and do that, and someone comes along and goes, hang on a second. Your game, your fraud game, is fraud. And someone says, what about if I just call it the game? Then it's not fraud anymore. No. The game's still a fraudulent game, and it's fraudulent in terms of what you're doing. But not naming it the fraud game doesn't stop what it is. Witsit's by comparison. This is not an experiment. It's pseudoscience. It's hijacking the terminology and creating phenomena. It's not adhering to the method. What about if I stop calling it science? No, you're still making the same example with it, though. It's still pseudoscientific by its nature. Just not calling it an experiment anymore doesn't change anything. Anyway, should we move on? Should we do a bit of Rogan? As always, please let... who is this video? It's actual Joe's channel, so please let Joe know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. There is a link going right by in the live stream chat, and tiny by comparison, though we are to Joe Rogan, we would hope that were he to respond, he'd put a link to my video and help us in the YouTube algorithmic love that we definitely do not receive as flat earthers. So as you can see, posted on screen now, is that link. So I'm suggesting you do that right now, as we are literally live right now. If you are watching the live stream and you can see that link whizzing by with my name on it, click on it and go and let Powerful JRE channel know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, and give him a little nod that we have responded to his video. As I say, the idea being that he would put a link to our video if he were to respond to any of the critiques that we put forth today. So hopefully with a couple more repetitions of that exact same call to action, that'll give people in the live chat enough time to actually go along to Powerful JRE channel and let them know that at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. Please don't swear at him. Please don't antagonise. You'll just get your comment deleted. There's no point if you end up getting your comment removed. So in the politest possible way, let them know we've critiqued their video. Their responses have been delivered by us on Joe Rogan Experience 2152 with Terrence Howard. So that's the name of the video. Link, as I say, is going by right now. Hopefully that's bought enough time for people to do that. Is there any comment from anybody who has watched this video prior to me pressing play at about the 20 minute and 25 second mark, so that I don't just press play and immediately get waffle straight through the start of it? Any comments before we start?
Well, get ready for concepts and pseudoscience.
Get ready for what?
Concepts like maths and pseudoscience.
I see. It's like the intro to we are now entering a world of conception. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, pretty much.
As an attractor, but to magnify something means to what? Make it larger, increase the space. That's the work of radiation. That's what Walter Russell was talking about.
What? Radiation is the same as magnification. Is that what he just said?
No. Yes, but he's an idiot. Magnification is not increasing the space. It's changing angle. He's deluded.
It's stupid. First thing that's come out of his mouth is utterly absurd. Who is this guy? Terrence Howard? You're not going to like us. This is going to be painful. Oh, dear.
Those years. That's the work of radiation. It's the electricity between the things that pull them together. The Coulomb force that supposedly opposites attract and push each other away. If that was true, then hot air and cold air would seek each other out.
What the hell was that? I don't even know where to begin with that convoluted word salad gaggle screw of nonsense.
Sounds like he's trying to deny entropy happens. It's kind of like hot and cold run away from each other instead of, hot seeking cold.
I don't know. There's too much to unpack in these nonsense word salad excerpts.
They're the same substance, but but in a different state. One is, they move in opposite directions from each other. Hot.
He doesn't know what states are.
Water and cold water move in opposite directions from each other.
They're not different states.
The reason two magnets seem like the North Pole is attracted to the South Pole, because if you had two rivers or two...
Sorry, the reason they seem like... Oh, my bad. Sorry, they just seem that way, do they? What is he talking about?
Two hoses with water coming out of them, and you pointed them at each other. What are they going to do? They're going to be pushing against each other. But they align to where the male enters the female and is able to come out.
Which of my two hoses is male? What are you babbling about? If I urinate next to another man, the streams combine and I become female. Wonder powers activate. Who suggested this? Why are we covering this? This is just the ramblings of a village idiot. Why are we covering this?
Might be too early. Go a little further.
How much further? Give me minutes, roughly.
I know for sure around the 29-minute mark, but you could try 25.
I'm sorry, it sounds like he's trying to describe gravity as being an electrical force within his belief that he lives on a ball.
Yeah.
Right, well, that was a 3-minute section of ramble I've just forwarded, so we'll see his last remarks and hear what Joe's got to say, and then hopefully there's something for us to get our teeth into that isn't just word salad.
Right. I can talk about it, but I can show you even better. If you can...
Can I stop you there? The concept of the periodic table, the way the periodic table conventionally is addressed, do they address these things as being isolated or intertwined?
They interact.
I mean, maybe it's not, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was a very malformed question. Talking about periodic table and elements and whether or not things are intertwined, this is even the question in response to the gaggle screw of nonsense that just came in the 3 minutes we fast forwarded couldn't have possibly resulted in that being a coherent question. Am I wrong?
I could try to look meaning into it and say that maybe Joe Rogan is trying to ask if the claimant in this case is making a claim of an intramolecular bond. That has, I don't know. I don't
He
know
did say,
what he's saying though.
I could almost go along with you, but we did catch him talking about phases and then talking about hot water and cold water. So again, village idiot ramblings that may have included words that alluded to phase change to make sense of Joe's question. I mean, I'm not blaming Joe for this. You know, it's garbage in, garbage out, isn't it? So he can't help this.
But they feel that carbon will always be carbon, and it will have its half-life, and keep breaking down, but it still be carbon. They don't understand that it unwinds and becomes nitrogen. Nitrogen unwinds and becomes oxygen.
So the periodic table, that the conventional use of the periodic table, and what is this other gentleman's name again?
Walter Russell.
Walter Russell. Walter Russell's version of the periodic table. How is Walter Russell's version of the periodic table perceived?
You need to spin on a bit more, Neil.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he's just claiming that elements, which are atoms, which is like the base form of that molecule, unwinds into something else. And then, I don't know where he's going with that. It's kind of sounds nutty.
Trying to get away from straight lines to curved lines, and everything winds into each other. Loops.
Let's explore them naturally, and that's what I did with my book. Once, what Walter Russell was missing, he didn't have the wave conjugations. He didn't have the mirror shapes, the all shapes. And that was because of a mistake that was made 6,000 years ago, maybe. They took the flower of life, which was that symbol.
Mm-hmm.
If you could go to my book, tcotlc.com, there's an example that I put in there on page 64. And I show the period, I show the element, the
Why did they do that?
Because they believed that the world was flat. The disputed fundamentals of God that he used to build. If you tap onto the flower of life, platonic solids things, it's going to take you to a video. Turn it, don't have to tap it. But it'll show you the flower of life that they took this from. But you'll see that instead of following the natural curvature of these 64 circles overlapping, they averaged the space where they met. And they invented straight lines.
Why did they do that?
Because they believed that the world was flat. They believed the world was flat at the time. And the church promoted. Pythagorean theorem comes off of this cube, a squared plus b squared equals c squared.
So they wanted to use all of these intertwining circles and create straight lines.
Because that's how they thought everything came down to, straight lines. They thought the world was flat. And I was like, oh my goodness. They didn't open the flower properly.
That is the most horse crap claim I've ever heard in my life.
I've got to be honest,
people
Neil.
believe thousands of years.
I don't think there's much for us to get our teeth into. Do you, John? This is word salad garbage nonsense.
Yeah, it sounds like at best it could be religious nonsense. At best, there's no. I don't even know if there's a positive claim in all that, except that we can judge on a natural world standard. His historical standard's probably garbage, but I really don't want to go into that.
Well, he says that there are no straight lines in nature. That's what gets me.
Okay. I mean, even as an onlooker from the outside, regardless of the specialist subject that we cover, listening to this, you're going to be of one or of two mindsets. You're either going to be like entranced by the word salad, or you're going to be like us and go, What the hell is this idiot babbling about? Because it makes no sense.
Well, I was more concerned. See, did you hear his response when he said they thought the Earth was flat? Like he never heard it before, Joe Rogan. He's heard it before. I found that a little suspicious.
No. He's being shown a bloody spirograph and told that they extrapolate out straight lines through curved circles when you're drawing out the flower of life. Why? Because Earth's flat. In their mind, when they're doing this. What do you mean? When they're conceptualizing circles? What are you blathering about? This makes no sense. So his response is like, what? Because even in any context, he's probably heard it before. Joe Rogan, this is. He's like, this is completely non sequitur. You're talking about drawing circles because Earth is flat. Where can he go with this guest? He's garbage in, garbage out. You're going to ask some crazy, silly sounding questions when you're being presented with this. And his dumbfounded response to, because Earth is flat, isn't because he's never heard the concept before. It's non sequitur to what's being positioned to him. We're going from a crappy description with lots of misapprehensions about entropic decay and phase change that aren't being described with things in different phases. It's irking my brain to try and make some sense of the nonsense he's spewed. I mean, I can pull apart how nonsensical it is by contrasting it with the actual descriptions of entropic decay and phase change. But do I want to? How does this serve our interests? Beyond him vaguely mentioning that upon drawing out some circles and deriving mathematical straight lines from them, that could in some way be ascribed to someone perceiving the world to be flat, which is totally non sequitur. I don't see how we've got any skin in this. You haven't got a horse in this race.
Nope. This is a crazy nonsense religion within heliocentrism. It has nothing to do with us, except that they need a flat plane to assert it because you define curves with straight lines.
Yeah.
That's symmetrically.
Yeah. To add to that, yes, I think that is what he's trying to say, right? He came to the conclusion that they have to deal with the Earth flat, right? He doesn't realize it, but what he's saying is they had to deal with the Earth as flat, and that we all know, right? That's the basis of everything. But his argument is that since we know that the Earth is a globe, right? Now we can assume this other nonsense. And what gets more intriguing as you watch the video is that he spews the exact same rhetoric as Witzer does. I mean, almost word for word when it comes to ether.
Well,
Correct.
I was thinking that while I was seeing him draw out a flower of life. Like, Whitsitt does this.
Yeah, he's
Exactly the same thing.
He's already invoked the wave. Oh, sorry.
The guy from Discord was just agreeing, saying it's the same as what Whitsitt does. But go ahead, John.
Yeah, he already invoked the wave when he was talking about the flower of life. He's just, I guess this is greasing the skids, as QE calls it. He's throwing as much crap down as he can to get it slick so he can slide the ether in.
Really. So the next one would be the icosahedron.
Now the flower.
No, you go ahead.
I just wanted to add, I was going to add. I mean, his whole argument falls apart though, because his argument in this video is that everything in nature expands in a sphere, right? And you don't see any flatness whenever you look around in nature. I could just point him to the horizon and say, hey, look at that.
Of life, it's very, very old. The concept is very old. What was the origin of the concept?
It's the oldest symbol known to mankind. It's believed that it was Anki, the brother of Enlil.
Again, this is why we've got no skin in this race. You're now into describing concepts, but earlier there was a ham-handed segue between how nature and the world is experienced versus these concepts in, geometric terms? If you want to call them that. I mean, it's pretty loose. I'll take it even though you haven't done it. But why would I do that? I mean, if I'm going to extract out some flat earth proof from this, I'd want it to be of a reasonable high quality. In other words, if I'm going to start like yesterday with Tim Osman, if we're going to say, okay, right, you appeal to Walter Bislin's maths, right, let's go and have a look at the surface level in it. Oh, look at that, it's flat. That's a top standard. If I start extracting out evidence from this, it's like, so what, I'm going to use some of what this guy in his word salad says to prove my point? That just makes the foundation of my claim crappy. Well, let's not focus on whether or not I can extract any flat earth evidence from it, and just point out that the foundation is crappy. This is nonsense drivel. Maybe this is, if it's being compared to Witsit, how outsiders perceive Witsit. You know, what is this guy babbling about? This is total word salad.
If you go by the Emerald
Sumerian
Tablets,
text.
the Sumerian text, that was the one that created mankind. Because if you look at mankind, and there's a point I want to make with it. I want you to stay on the book, go back to go to 134 on the book. And this is what that other gentleman being told me to do. He said, why don't you just take the pieces that make up the flower and put them together based on...
Sorry, did he just tell the audience that a being told him to do something? Did I hear that right?
Yes. He's talking about an individual or a ghost or some godhead that he's claiming.
Okay.
universal ratios. So if you once you're able to pull it up,
164,
page 134, 134 in the book. So this is the juxtapose of the mistake they made. Yep, just tap right onto that. Yep, just tap on it. Now, this was made by David Johnson, one of our programmers, Argos Fuel. So if you go to the far left and tap on that, this is...
You tap on that, it adds in the techno. It's like some screensaver that you get on a PlayStation 2 when you put a CD in. You get this going.
I took 4 of those triangles. And wow. And you can scroll around. This is what happens when 4 bubbles meet. This is the negative space where they can't touch each other.
Are you ready to fight? Jump!
I used to have when I was working in a theatre, something called an intelligence light. And the way it worked was pretty much like this. It was quite complex in terms of the mechanism inside, but it would just move shapes around and they would interlock and intertwine to create these patterns on the floor projected down. And you had a little computer program that you can control it with, and you just created these patterns. Yeah, like you do with a spirograph. So what? I mean, other than being good for a rave, you know what I mean? What? Why? I don't get it. I mean, I can add some techno to this.
This is hydrogen. And as I was saying, electricity is always trying to get to...
This is not hydrogen. I'm sorry. This is. I just snap into this guy's well for you. Okay, this is hydrogen. Okay, that was me thinking hydrogen was something else.
to the center of that triangle, but it gets pushed out. And now you see it has 4 contractive poles, which is the electric poles. Just go around it from like a...
Yeah, go on.
He said triangle, and then he said there's no straight lines in nature. Where are you getting a triangle from, bro? What the hell are you talking about? I'm not able to see his illustrations, but
Not a
2
triangle.
straight lines meeting a vertex is...
It isn't. It isn't.
It ain't got that.
No.
horizontally, yeah. It has 4 contractive poles because electricity is seeking a higher pressure.
It did just say horizontally, though.
Yeah.
No straight lines.
Yeah, this did just... Yeah, no, there's no straight lines in nature, bro. Sorry. You can't have horizontal. Go somewhere else. Preacher nonsense.
And forcing it in, where magnetism is seeking a lower pressure condition and spun out. So the
magnetism is seeking a lower pressure. What? What's he talking about? Anybody know what he's
I'll
babbling
let you
about?
know that this is how Witsit sounds. Okay?
I
Sounds like a
disagree.
nut, right?
Nah, I don't think I've ever heard Witsit appeal to a being that's told him about some cosmic geometry or some crap like that. I mean, this guy really does seem like a nutter. At least there's some semblance of being sane with Witsit, even when he is waffling about similar stuff.
The vortices,
far.
those tips.
But, well, so far this guy comes across as a nutcase. I've got to be honest. Does anybody disagree? Or not being fair?
He may be extremely stoned or tripping on acid, or both.
He begins to speak the same things Witsit speaks. So just like you're looking at him as a nutter, our flat earth representative
This is
sounds
not
the
Witsit,
same
right?
way.
Look, where were you with these comments about Witsit yesterday? I don't, as much as it's fun to compare and contrast Witsit, right? We can with the images on screen and what he's talking about. But number one, I want to take what he says at face value, and what he's saying is bonkers and nonsensical. It does not make sense. Now, I'm not going to ascribe motivation. I'm certainly not going to ascribe drug use to the reasoning behind putting out nonsensical garbage. All I can do is take him at face value and say, what I understand the meaning of what he says to be is as follows, based on what he said. Now, that makes no sense, and if I try and turn it into something that makes a semblance of sense, it would be X. But he isn't saying X. So let's not focus on repositioning his garbage word salad into making some sense and just take it at face value. Okay, what's the face value? It's nonsensical garbage. Ergo, the guy just strikes me as a nutter because he's saying stupid things that don't make sense. That's all I can ascribe to it at this stage. We'll carry on, but this is pretty tedious, I gotta be honest. How many people are watching? Let's see if everyone's liking this. Under 100 people. Tends not to be the case that people are loving it if we've got less than 100 people. Nevertheless, might be that you're all really keen in the chat. Please let me know if you're really enjoying us covering this, because I certainly aren't. I'm not, rather. Share the show anyway. Please hit the share button and get it out to more people so they can also not enjoy this as much as I'm not enjoying it. Should we carry on? Because I've got to be honest. This is poison. We carry on?
Considering you only gave it a few minutes, I think, yeah.
Really? Fine.
That's the magnetic field. That's where they begin. But it has an equal attractor and an equal amount of repulsion. So if you go to what happens when 8 bubbles me, they gave me the patents to that. I called that the tetrian. This is
the negative space in between 8 bubbles.
8 bubbles. This is the negative space where 8 bubbles meet, and you can scroll around.
And this is ignored when they're concentrating on straight lines.
Completely, because this, if you look from the top, I haven't violated anything. It fits perfectly inside of there. But this is the negative space where 8 bubbles meet, but you'll notice it has 8 contractive poles, but it only has 6 magnetic poles, 6 vortices, so it has a greater electrical potential than a repulsion. So maybe this is the strong nuclear force, and the previous one was the weak nuclear force. So I was like,
oh, this is hurting my head. It's such poison.
Gibberish.
like, okay. I called this the Huntian after my son. So I was like, what happens when 6 bubbles meet? If you'll go...
Man, you're just describing stuff in a computer model, right? If you want to discover how the world works, let's just put this to bed, because I'm sick of this, right? This is not how we expand our understanding of the world. Far from it. There is a method in place to find out how the world works. It is called the scientific method. Now, what is this method? Well, it's the principal process in physics. What's physics? Physics is a study of the physical and natural world. Let's recap. If we are studying the physical and natural world, we will apply the scientific method. Okay, now we need to know what that method is, because what we are witnessing on screen is garbage. It's nonsense. It's a computer model with an explanation that defies entropic law, with a guy who doesn't know what phases are explaining how the geometry in a mathematical model reified into existence as being hydrogen demonstrated on a computer screen. That is not science. First step in science is to observe something occurring. What are we observing occurring? Is it magnetism? Is it entropy? Is it decay? The unwinding of elements into other elements? What the bloody hell are we observing? Oh, we're not. It's the nonsense ramblings of the village idiot. Step 1, observe natural phenomena. That's the first step in an elucidation of cause in physics, the study of the physical and natural world. So first you need to show me something happening. Then you need to say, I wonder what happened in nature. So step 1, we've got to have something happening in nature to study. That's how we study nature. Yeah, this might be a bit of a revelation to a guy with a computer program, I know. I mean, he's got a lot of long words and all. Once you've decided that you want to question why something happened in nature, what with the studying nature and all, you can then suppose a cause. Now, your cause can then be varied by you, the researcher, to see if it does cause the phenomena you observed in nature and want to know the cause of. That is an experiment. And upon doing that process, you will either validate your null hypothesis, which is to say you won't induce the effect, proving your supposition wrong, that is to say, proving it wasn't that, or you prove you've got the cause of the effect. This offers an explanation for something that happens in nature. That's science. That's physics. What's this guy doing? Is it that? Is it the elucidation of cause and effect through study of natural phenomena with hypothesis-based experimentation? Is that what this guy's doing? No. This is a clown with a computer program. Not a very good one either. Yeah? One that's been used to create trippy patterns for junkies across the world since about the late 70s. It's not a very clever program, but the, sciencey sounding words he's babbling make it seem like it's got some relation to the world we inhabit. It hasn't. This is stupid. And it offends my ears. Yeah? Now, I've said it before like I'm despondent about it. Now I'm expressing my utter disdain and irritation for this pseudoscience, word salad peddling numpty moron. I don't want to hear anything more from him. This is irritating me to the, not quite the extent of teachers, but almost. Because he's like peddling himself like he's teaching Joe this stuff and therefore the audience this stuff. He's got something to teach, he feels. And it offends me. Did anybody appreciate my irritation in this regard?
Yeah, I've opened
That's
change
how I
videos.
felt as well.
Yeah.
We may not change videos.
Absolutely.
Some
It's
people
a
love
fun-
hearing me get annoyed, but go on, DALA.
It's absolutely annoying. It's a philosophical framework, isn't it?
It's concepts. You summed it up perfectly right before we started.
Yep. It's frustrating. And then what he does is he uses
You broke up DALA. Do you want to try once more?
to watch and listen.
Start there again. We just got a prolonged silence.
Can you hear me?
We can now. Go ahead. Try that all again.
Sorry about that. Yeah, and I just wanted to say, can you? It's frustrating to listen to him. It's really is, and that's why I thought, look, this is how when Wiss is in a debate, because I know he's prolific on when he debates flat Earth, but when he rambles on about ether and his philosophical frameworks, what you expressed now just a second ago, is how I feel.
Anyone else? 100 people watching. See, me getting irritated with this is why people have probably shared. Oh, Nathan's getting really annoyed. Oh, great. I'll hit the share button.
I'll never step over my boundaries again, and pick out another video.
Why not? What are you talking about? Sometimes, Neil, you got to understand that me saying I hate this is equally worthy of critique, even with me saying I don't want to cover this. I know it's quite a confusing concept to understand, but when I just said, oh look, the numbers have gone up, ergo, typically, even if you're a regular, you want to share good stuff. Now, me getting deeply irritated with this garbage and summarising it with a contrasting view of the scientific discovery that we can employ with a method of physics, then people want to share that. So therefore, it's absolutely a great video from that point of view. How else would people know to spot this as word salad if they're thinking, I need to look into this as being something that needs consideration? Same goes for Witsit, as we can't stop ourselves from comparing him to this. Fine. But if that's the case, you just need, at some point, someone to lose their shit with it and go, what is he babbling about? This has got nothing to do with reality. Have we got more? Or is this just? Is it just this more and more and more of the same?
Yeah, more of the same. We don't do just flat Earth. We also do science versus pseudoscience.
Maybe the survey used to be called Science versus Pseudoscience, and while I agree with the sentiment, the only reason I understand what science is, literally the only reason, is because our opponents in the affirmative tell us that they had science, told us, past tense now for us, that they had scientific evidence. So you go, okay, my opponent's telling me he's got scientific evidence, I better learn what that is. But for me, in this subject, very specifically, if I start asserting scientific evidence for a flat Earth, I'm in a category error, aren't I?
Absolutely.
Right. So, like with most things that we've learned, and as annoying as this may seem to anybody who comes along as a newbie, because I'm going to decry it afterwards, you don't need a lot of the stuff you learn on the journeys of flat Earth. Or you're advancing for the first part of your journey. Your heliocentric knowledge to try and figure out how it doesn't work. It's like you're not learning about anything flat Earth at that point, really. You're trying to undo your current religious belief as being false. Like, well, that first step isn't needed when you understand that religious belief needs a flat Earth to make the assertion. So unpicking how it doesn't necessarily match up with certain observations of the stars when you conceptualize how you would work if you were standing on a sphere and moving around the sun, like you're well into the reified concept of that religious belief when you're trying to show how that, when you're well in the thick of it, doesn't work. Like, no. Now we're further along in our understanding and have learned all of that stuff, so we can refute globers when they come and make those claims. We do have the good understanding, so we don't just seem like idiots that are hand-waving their claims without understanding them. But what use is it to us when we come to actually prove Earth is flat? Very little. Yes, by just to contrast that, we do have an example that has two sides of a coin that uses the same thing, which is the horizon. They used the horizon as a flat plane to claim that we've got limited view over a hill getting in the way. Not curving, but limited view to things in the distance. Therefore, Earth curve. And we use it in terms of our reference to the surface level, or calibration of a level tool. And therefore, both examples, as and theirs, references a flat plane. So that, at the end of the journey, what does that have to do with lights in the sky moving around a ball? Nothing. The ball came from the flat Earth measurements. So it's almost like it seems superfluous to requirements to have learned in an advanced manner how heliocentrism worked. I now have a better understanding of globe Earth reification taken from flat Earth measurements in terms of its functionality to actually give it a higher level of appreciation for its predictive capabilities, and then ascribe them to the flat Earth that was measured in the first instance to give it that kudos. So we've got lots of flat Earth examples of measurements that we can take and show to our audience now, rather than trying to understand how a heliocentric model doesn't work. It's never gonna benefit you. This same thing. How's it going to benefit you to understand how this guy's description of a counter space in a geometric model he's whipped upon a computer, after describing how the flower of life can give him two pissing streams in the opposite direction that's counter to a phase change in these different states of hot and cold? You're like, this is such nonsense. Man, I don't want to be proving Earth's flat. What are we looking at this for? But we'll carry on.
Yeah, in our case, we need to teach the ballers their own model so we can debunk it afterwards. And it seems to be the case again. We need to teach the ballers how they came to the measurements of their globe via flat Earth. So then we can show how flat it is. But they need to understand the model first, which they don't.
I want the people who we previously described as giving a soft landing, and maybe Mark Sargent won't like me using him in this example, but I'm gonna. That's what I want people like Mark to be doing, giving you a soft landing with a better understanding of how the globe works with flat Earth elevation angle measurements. Well, once you've given that soft landing, when you get further up the chain to us, not in terms of popularity, far from it, but once you get further up the chain to us and we are explaining at an advanced level with orbital motion and that level of heliocentric understanding, also reference to the flat plane that they use, it'll only be in rebuttal. That is to say, I'm suggesting we move forward on the front foot, have no reference to a globe. Why would we? Just talk about how Earth is actually measured. And then if, upon reactive necessity, an opponent puts a globe Earth claim to us, we can then take that, because we have an understanding of how the heliocentric model works, and point out how a flat plane is utilized within it. But not necessarily, as flat Earth debate goes, we shouldn't be opening with that. That's where I see people like Mark Sargent advancing how they give people a soft landing. Let me cuddle you with some extended and advanced heliocentric understanding. Doesn't that sound great? We're going to talk about how the globe works. If that was Mark Sargent doing them, he's lulling them into a false sense of security with an arm round them, telling them he's going to let them know better how the globe works. With a flat Earth measurement, as I show you here. That's how your globe works. Isn't that cool? That's what I'd hope that brings people to this subject. In reality, people come because of Archons and Mandela effect and all the other stupid 9/11 garbage that they've found on their path to flat Earth. You know what I mean? If you haven't come across JFK's assassination before you've come across a flat plane of reference, I'd be horrified, because the road to this subject is pasted and plastered with feast and nonsense. Not flat Earth measurements. I hope we are the antidote to that, rather, in 2024. It certainly seems to be the case, but that's where I'm hoping we go. Just deal with globe Earth claims in rebuttal reactively. Proactively tell people Earth's measured flat, and if people come to you as a flat earther like Mark Sargent for a soft landing into the subject to have your mind broadened, broaden it with a better understanding of how heliocentrism works with a flat plane measurement. That would be my ideal world. That's Nathyland. Never going to exist. Ice walls and domes is what we're going to contend with. That's the path. Can we be done with Joe Rogan? I will play 2 minutes more just in case there is something really juicy, but I doubt it.
Go to the one right in the center. Now you see that it has these huge bubbles, fast moving, but there's 6 strong spheres that's going around this, but the greater attractor has grabbed the 2 weaker attractors. And this looks just like a photon, and guess what? It has 30 poles. What is the speed of light? 299,752,400 something. They rounded off to 300 million kilometers per second squared. But if you look at it from the top, you'll see that I haven't violated.
Did you just give heliocentric light speed as a squared function? Sounded like it. Did anybody hear that? Did anybody catch? Rather than just stating maybe a nice easy number, 1 AU, for example, he gave it as a squared function. Guys, just deluded.
Yeah, maybe because it's a two-way speed.
It just made it sound like it was more complicated than it was. Light speed comes from flat Earth measurements also. It's a derivation of Huygens' insertion of an R value for Venus, for Keplerian scaling values taken from a radial value of Earth measured with Polaris off a flat plane. That's how you get your light distance speed, commonly referred to as light speed.
Violated anything. This looks like what happens in nature. So I was like, okay, so they gave me the patents to.
Looks like what happens in nature. See how it sounds a bit sciencey. Looks like what happened. No. Study of the physical and natural world. I went through it earlier with the scientific method. That's how we expand our understanding of the physical and natural world. You don't create stuff in models and go, look how this looks kind of like what happens in nature. Let's study this. No. See, someone like me will come along and just point out you're a clown. And you sound stupid. Really stupid. This sounds stupid because it is.
To this, but you'll see that there's 6 unaccounted electrical poles to it.
Wow, I see that.
So I was like, what happens when 12 bubbles meet if you go to the one right next?
What happens if there's 16? Who cares? Go on, Neil.
No, it was me.
That wasn't me.
The drama.
The drama?
This whole thing. Oh, sorry.
Go on, one of you. D-A-L-A. I don't know why I can never say that.
The drama of with the bubbles.
Yeah. It's Dala, Nathan. Just gonna say Dala. So what he's just working his way up to is how the ether moves. Just to cut it short.
I see. Because of a study of the physical and natural world. But he hasn't done that.
Next to it.
No, it's just a physical. It's a framework, a philosophical framework. That's what it is.
Another stable structure that we basically see in nature, but there's 4
Basically see this in nature. Yeah? Good job I summarised this from the off, right? With the scientific method and what we'd be doing if we were actually dealing with nature. There's a method for that. But if this kind of looks a bit like it, I mean, we could delve into this a lot deeper. Maybe we'll expand our understanding of the physical and natural world with this. No. Village idiot. I'm done with you. Right, that is going to be where we round out this live show. So with that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned. As I say, there will be an after show to follow. Fortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, hit me up on PayPal and Ko-Fi and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.